Good evening and welcome to the maiden voyage of the Blue HQ podcast. I'm Aaron, joined tonight by Dalton and Jeff. A little background, I guess we should give you. We're going to be covering just about anything and everything Colts. If it wears blue, we're talking about it. We'll be bringing you all sorts of podcasts, breaking news, everything from cuts to injuries to trades. And on our page, you can also find lots of Colts articles, as many as you can handle, by some of our great writers down at Pro Football Spot. It'll be a weekly podcast breaking down every Colts game, down to injuries, the matchups, even a little fantasy information for you.
Next steps up, knocks it through, down to the 10, down to the 5, touchdown.
Colts are facing the Detroit Lions this Sunday, looking to start 1-0 for the first time since 2013. That game clip you just heard was from the Colts Oakland Raiders game back in 2013, the last time the Colts started off 1-0, and that was the go-ahead touchdown scored by Andrew Luck. And what a great play it was. Interesting matchup on our hands this weekend. The Colts going in with quite a few banged-up members, and the Detroit Lions seem to be scratch-free. Let's analyze this matchup and see what we got as far as injuries and fantasy information as well.
All right, with regards to injuries, I think the key injury for the Colts would be Vontae Davis. He's basically been the playmaker for the Colts on defense since he arrived here. The Lions have a very strong pass offense, so that's why it's a key injury. They have Golden Tate from last year, their number one wide receiver. They have Marvin Jones, who they signed from Cleveland last year. And they also have Anquan Boldin, who they got from the 49ers. And they also have Matthew Stafford, a quarterback, obviously, who's been known to throw the ball.
Aaron, the big key to this game, I'm going to tell you right now, is going to be David Perry and T.Y. McGill coming up the middle. All preseason, the Lions, they've done a really good job of driving the ends upfield, letting Stafford step up into the pocket and deliver that pass. With our secondary banged up the way it is, we've got to get to Stafford and put him on the ground. So if Perry and McGill are able to collapse that pocket and not allow him to step up and find open receivers, I think the Colts get away with a win this week.
Absolutely. One thing we saw in the preseason that has to be cleaned up, obviously aside from the penalties, was the run defense. The Lions have a pretty decent backfield with Theo Riddick and Abdullah back there taking the handoffs, and I think what's going to be key is definitely getting the penetration up the middle, but also controlling that edge. I think Stafford's kind of underrated in a sense. The guy can sling it. He can get the ball where he needs to put it. Obviously, Calvin Johnson, not a factor, but they've got three capable receivers in Tate, Bolden, and Jones. So they're definitely going to be a threat throwing the ball. One thing I would expect is for TJ Green and Clayton Gathers to have a really, really good game. Of course, I'm speculating, but I'm hoping that with those guys really getting physical in the safety position, it's going to help with that run support. But then you look at Riddick, and Riddick is just as capable catching the pass as he is running the ball. So I think you're right. Getting pressure on Stafford is going to be huge. Making any team kind of one-dimensional, I think, is the key. And I think obviously our corners, short of Davis, are going to be in for a challenge. And it's just going to be a matter of getting pressure on Stafford and forcing that quick throw. I think it's going to be vital to the outcome of this game.
You mentioned Clayton Gathers. Is he 100% going, or is he still injured? I heard that he just got out of his walking boot the other day, and I'm not sure yet about whether he's going to play or not.
Well, I mean, obviously, the only injuries I think as of now, they're going to keep the starters out. I know Vontae is going to be out. I don't believe Muhort is going to be ready. Obviously, you don't want to rush anybody in anything, but it's a regular season game. I think that the depth we have, the safety position, obviously we've got Mike Adams, Clayton Gathers, TJ Green. I'm hoping that even if Gathers is not good to go, Mike Adams and Green can kind of hold it down back there.
Guys, from what I've seen, Henry Anderson is also going to be out again this week. So Kendall Langford, they're saying he's going to go, but Anderson probably a no-show this week.
Yeah, and I think the same for Gathers. I think it's going to be TJ Green and Mike Adams starting at safety.
Definitely. I think one thing, actually, a little bit of breaking news for you. The Colts signing Akeem Ayers, I believe, off of waivers. He was cut by the Rams. And I think not only does he add, I mean, he's a veteran, but I don't think he's in the same league as like Robert Mathis or Trent Cole would be. I think he adds a good amount of experience and leadership to that linebacking core. And I think too, with the way that Theo Riddick likes to break out and get out in the open and catch those balls, I think having guys like Ayers and especially having Mathis, it's going to be vital, to stop that running back passing game. Whether or not Gathers is ready to go, like I said, hopefully at that safety position, that'll also be a factor in stopping the run. So,
speaking of safety as well, the Colts also just signed Matthias Farley off of waivers from the Cardinals. He's safety as well. They drafted him, or undrafted free agent. I mean, sorry about that. According to Pro Football Focus, actually, he was the highest rated rookie during the preseason. It seemed like he was cut more just because there was not enough spots on the team. So I think he's an intriguing prospect as well at safety.
Yeah, very, very excited about him. Also, kind of a separate thing, but tied in at the same time. Aaron, I know you had a big soft spot for Frankie Williams, and I don't know if you saw or not, but he was actually signed to the Colts' final practice squad position today. So he will be remaining with the team, and hopefully he can grow and make an impact down the road.
Yeah, he definitely had a productive preseason. He played solid and obviously good enough to make that initial 53-man. So I think it's a decent practice squad we have. I think definitely the defense is a question mark right now, but I'm hoping that as the season progresses, it'll become a more of an exclamation point. So that brings us to now noting some key fantasy matchups. For those of you who have Andrew Luck, I would definitely consider starting him. I mean, I don't know why you draft him if you would not start Andrew Luck, but definitely going to be a good matchup for him. I think the Lions' secondary is not exactly elite. I would expect Andrew Luck to have a pretty productive day. It's his first game back, first regular season game. Oh goodness, I believe it was week 8. But I think he's definitely ready to get back on that field to kind of get the taste for some football again. I would expect Frank Gore to have a semi-decent game as well. I feel like the Lions have a pretty decent backfield. I wouldn't consider Gore a starter as a number 1 or 2, perhaps a flex in case of of injury for a fill-in. Then you've got Hilton matching up perhaps against Darius Slay, pretty decent corner. I would say for those of you who have Moncrief, it would probably be wise to consider him for a start. I think he'll probably have a good game. And, of course, this is all wishful thinking from a Colts fan. You obviously hope all your receivers have productive days. But, definitely Luck. Consider him if you're into fantasy. Give him a start. I'm sure he'll be pretty productive. But let's kind of discuss the keys to success here. I mean, obviously stopping the run, but what does the offense have to do? What kind of plays do they have to call? What do they want to try to do to that defense to take control of this game?
I think right away they want to establish that Andrew Luck is back and that he can do the stuff that he's been doing before. So that means I think passing the ball a lot. Like you said, the secondary on the Lions isn't as great. They have Darius Slay at cornerback. They have Clever Quinn at safety, and then a few other guys. So I think they're going to try early just to see what they have see the matchups, see who's strong on offense. So whether it be T.Y., whether it be Dante Moncrief, maybe Philip Dorsett, I think they're just going to try to establish that aerial attack early on.
I think for the Colts to be successful in this game, like I mentioned before, they have to collapse the pocket. You can't let Stafford hit these guys open downfield. Containing the edge, which Aaron, you mentioned earlier. We can't let these guys bounce outside. Let them run it up the middle all day, take hit after hit, but no 20, 30-yard gains at a time. That hurts you. That puts you in pretty good field position no matter where you're at on the field, a 30-yard run. As far as our offense goes, we have to establish a run game. I know it's a personal goal for Frank Gore to hit 1,000 yards this year, and he's not going to do it, running the ball 10, 15 times a game for 40 yards. It's not possible. The math doesn't add up. It doesn't work. So establish the run game, use the play action, collapse the pocket. Colts will be in good shape.
Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously you want to get that aerial attack. We didn't see the Colts, at least with Andrew Luck in the game, getting too aggressive through the air. You kind of hope that they improve a little bit in the red zone. The Lions, not with a great red zone defense. You kind of hope the Colts could take advantage of that. You need to win this game with touchdowns, not field goals. And I think that they've done a pretty good job of getting the ball down to that point. I think they really need to focus on getting their tight ends involved. Obviously, you've got Allen, Doyle, Swope out there. You really want to take advantage of those guys and get not only those short 3rd and 3s, those short out routes, but you want to use them in the red zone. They're big physical guys, and even if not for for receiving, for blocking. Dwayne Allen, great blocker. Doyle is a reliable blocker, and I think you're right. Passing's great, but ultimately, when you're able to run the ball, it makes it a little bit easier for the team as a whole, to take that matchup and run away with it. Defensively, I think contain Stafford, hold that run game to minimal runs. One thing to note. Ebron is back at practice. Eric Ebron could possibly play week 1. He's definitely a guy that's capable of, picking up big chunks of yards. One of those guys that you really want to try to slow down. I think this is definitely a possible win. I mean, you go into every game thinking that, but, obviously with the way that this team was last year, a little unstable, unsteady. But I think they're hungry. I think they're hungry to win again. They're hungry to take the division back. And, quite honestly, I would expect this to be a physical game, but there's also the possibility of it being a high-scoring game. Neither one of these defenses is great. I feel like, with the receivers the Colts have and the receivers the Lions have, this could be a game where it turns into a shootout, much like it did the last time these two teams met. And it might even come down to a last-minute play. The same way it was these last two teams met. But definitely a happy time for Colts fans. Luck will take the field again for the first time in a year. So a lot to look forward to in this game, and just really hoping that Luck can lead this team to a 1-0 start. I think that's really what this team needs. And if they can do that, I think, we should have a positive outlook on where this season's going to go.
I think just to add something to the point you said about red zone, I think that's key as well for the offense. This year, even Chuck Pagano was saying it today, they think to get the win, they're going to have to score a lot of points. Andrew Luck said it, they're going to score a lot of points this year. So getting those red zone points is crucial, especially with the shaky defense. The offense is going to have to beat the defense. It seems like kind of like the Peyton Manning era, that kind of thing. So all the points are going to matter. So hopefully they've always had issues in the red zone, so hopefully they can get that sorted out this year. I think Dante Moncrief's a big target in the red zone, always has been. And hopefully Dwayne Allen, too, is tight end there. Maybe Jack Doyle, too, he kind of plays that fullback kind of role, but you never know. Maybe he's target, too. But, yeah, I think definitely that red zone is crucial.
Obviously, I think when it comes to the Colts, something that doesn't go mentioned a lot are our special team guys, our specialists. We got one of those capable kickers in the league, even at 40 years and older with Vinatieri, definitely a capable guy. And I think one thing the Colts often benefit from is that field position battle. When you've got a guy like McAfee back there who's constantly pinning guys deep, I think that as well is going to be something that that we want to look for to happen consistently. Obviously you don't want to have to see those punts, but if you do, you want to get that team backed up as far as you can. Definitely a lot to look forward to here. I feel like it'll be our first taste of Colts football in what feels like forever. So one thing, too, definitely some key injuries, obviously, we mentioned earlier. Vontae Davis, obviously, out with his ankle injury. Clayton Gathers dealing with that foot injury. Quite possible he won't be a go for week 1. You kind of hope that your depth is strong enough. In his place, more than likely, is going to be TJ Green, so I would expect TJ Green and Adams to be back there. Henry Anderson also doubtful with his knee injury. Definitely something that you want to see taken care of. Patrick Robinson was nursing a groin injury. We're hoping that he'll be back. So obviously a lot of banged up guys will be without Arthur Jones. Obviously not great news. But it's just you have to remain hopeful that you've done enough in the offseason with your depth and with the guys you have in there. And I think something that has been overlooked, especially considering the injury he went through, was Mathis. We've got Mathis back. He's got another year under his belt removed from that injury, and I think he's definitely going to be a factor this year, not only in the pass rush, but just as a leader, in that huddle. I think he's definitely gonna boost morale and ultimately, hopefully lead this team to a win come Sunday.
So, guys, I guess it's time maybe to get into some of the viewer questions that we've been asked on Twitter today. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at the Blue HQ on Twitter. So some of the questions that we had today, just to run through a couple of them, were the first one would be, which rookie has the biggest impact week 1 and throughout the season?
For me, I think it'd have to be Ryan Kelly. Obviously, he's the first-round pick coming in from that draft class. It seems like he has this role that everybody has already put him in. He's to Jeff Saturday to Peyton Manning. It's the Andrew Luck, Ryan Kelly kind of combo. So I think a lot of people will be looking at that. He kind of solidifies that interior offensive line as well. I know there's questions at guard still. There's Mewhort, who's out probably 2 to 4 weeks, they said. He said he is progressing ahead of schedule, but he still is out for week 1, so I'm not sure about that. Same for right guard. But I think with Kelly, invested that high round pick in him, the high first round pick. So I think things are well. He seemed to have a pretty good preseason as well. So I'll be looking out for him the most for sure.
Yeah, I think the biggest rookie impact potentially could be Chester Rogers if they let him return kicks. Depending on what Quan Braid does this season, to be honest, I haven't been that impressed with him this preseason. I mean, yeah, you can return kicks. You got to show up in the receiving game. So, if Rogers gets a chance and, can make something of it, he could be the most impactful rookie I think we've seen in quite some time.
I like the picks. I think obviously Ryan Kelly, he's got a big matchup on his hands with Haloti Ngata coming up the middle. Chester Rogers definitely has a chance to be a huge factor in the return game. I would have to say that the rookie I think is going to have the biggest impact this game is TJ Green. With the way that the Lions, they're physical runners, I think TJ Green has the opportunity to get in there and really disrupt the run. I think he's had a good offseason. He's got a good preseason. I would expect him to hold his own in coverage. But I feel like the guy has the potential to be a real game breaker and definitely disrupt whatever the Lions want to do. Obviously, it'd be beneficial if all three of these guys were to step up and make impacts. But this is a good rookie class, and out of the 53-man roster that the Colts are currently fielding, I believe 11 are rookies. So definitely. I mean, you're relying on these guys, to come in and make that impact. And when 20% of your active roster is rookies, you obviously have enough faith, and you hope that it's faith and not just lack of better options. But I think the guys that they have between Green, between Morrison, you've got Kelly, you've got a lot of young guys who I think as well are hungry to get that victory. And, whether or not as well we see a lot of Ayers, I guess is questionable. But I think to have that guy back there, I have high hopes for this defense. So definitely, look for Green, look for Kelly, look for Chester Rogers to kind of be some impactful players come Sunday.
Guys, can I correct a mistake real quick that I just realized I made earlier? I said you could follow us on Twitter at the Blue HQ. It's actually at PFS the Blue HQ, Pro Football Spot the Blue HQ. So I just wanted to clear that up for anybody who wanted to follow us and interact with us on Twitter. That would be the handle to do it at.
Definitely. And as well, look for us on Facebook. We are the Blue HQ podcast group. Check out our page. We also have just a regular group. Feel free to give it a like and just, definitely interact. We love the questions. And obviously as the season progresses, this is something that we really want the interaction from. And we want to be able to not only bring you the news, but also, include you in anything as far as giveaways to, fan trivia. This is supposed to be something that's enjoyable, not just for us, but for you as well as the listeners, because ultimately without you, there is no podcast.
Also, real quick, just wanted to highlight something that Aaron said here is giveaways. There will be giveaways going forward into the season. So if you guys have any ideas for what you think should be the giveaways, tweet at us, let us know. And if you think your idea, we'll give you a shout out here on the show. And, definitely give you some credit for your idea here. And two other questions real quick that from the same user, actually. The first one being, do you think the offensive line this year, the way it stands now, is going to be able to protect Andrew Luck and create running lanes? The second one being, with the injuries the way they have been this preseason, do you think that we are going to put 11 men on the field? And I hope that one is kidding. Kind of seems a little close to home right now with all the injuries going into Detroit with a team that seamlessly has none. But to answer that first question, Aaron, I'll let you take that one if you'd like.
Yeah, definitely. Another great question. You know,
I think regarding the O line, I think there's still a lot of questions going into that. I feel like we have more questions now than we did when we went into it. I think when we started, at least we knew for sure that left side was good. We had Costanzo, who had a bad year last year, but it seemed like he's going to bounce back. And we had Muhort, and then we had Kelly. At this point, the only the sure thing would be Kelly. He's going to start, but I mean, Muhort hurts now. And you never know with Costanzo. He didn't have the greatest preseason, so I think there's a lot more questions going in now than there were before.
I think this is potentially the best offensive line group the Colts have had in a long time. And I think if they can stay healthy and, mesh, there's real potential here. As the season progresses, I think that we'll see this group step up and do what they're there to do. And I think it'll be a good season in Indianapolis in 2016.
definitely. It's unfortunate with Muhort's injury, Costanzo being a little bit inconsistent in the preseason, but you've got Ryan Kelly, who was talked about as the most pro-ready center in the draft, and you just kind of hope that you can field that offensive line that is going to give Luck the time he needs to make those throws. You noticed in the preseason the Colts a lot of the time utilize blocking from their tight end, from their running back. So you kind of hope that where the offensive line lacks, at least for now, the running backs and the tight ends can kind of pick up that slack. Obviously, we hope that the injury bug was a little bit was just for preseason. You hope that your guys can recover from that now. But yeah, I mean, I think a guy like Luck needs just a few seconds to find that route. And I'm hoping that, obviously the guys that are fielding, can really not necessarily be the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, but give him the time he needs, just enough to get, the ball to these receivers. Hilton, Moncrief, Dorsett, they're capable of getting open. They're quick guys. So I think, not the best offensive line we've had, but definitely it's what we have, and I think we have to roll with it. Going into this game, there's not really much of a choice.
I think definitely too. There's some interesting prospects that they drafted when it regards to the offensive line. I think you have Joe Haig, who played North Dakota with Carson Wentz there. He was his left tackle. I could see him playing more at the guard position. He's a good rotational guy, very good depth player. He was hurt before, but he's back now. I don't expect him to play week 1, but with the injuries, you never know. And then we also have LaRaven Clark, who is definitely more of a project. Don't expect to see him play this year. Best case scenario is he doesn't see the field this year. He's definitely not ready yet. He played in a very college type of formation, so he's still not used to the pro style game, and it showed in the preseason. So best case scenario is you don't see him play this season yet, and then maybe Joe Haig in terms of prospects. And there's also Austin Blythe at center, who had a pretty nice preseason as well.
Definitely tune in this Sunday, 4:25 p.m. Colts will be starting off at home against the Detroit Lions. Injuries definitely a factor, but you hope that these guys have prepared and that the preparation in the off season has been enough. So definitely tune in. It'll be the first taste of football in a long time, and I think a lot of people are ready for that. It's been too long. But definitely tune in weekly. Lots more podcasts to do. Be on the lookout for some articles. Did either of you gentlemen have any articles that you wanted to make these people aware of?
Tomorrow I'll have a T.Y. Hilton piece up. Whether it's up tomorrow or Thursday, it will be up though. So check out that.
Yeah, in the next couple of days, you can be checking out for my articles. I have one coming out on the Colts not taking Sutton, who was cut by the Packers, and also a piece on T.Y. McGill, who I think is going to be a big impact player for the Colts this year.
And also be on the lookout for an article of mine, 5 matchups to watch, Indianapolis versus Detroit edition, and also putting up some fantasy analysis, letting you know who to start, who to sit. But as always, we'll be bringing you the news that you want to hear. We appreciate you tuning in. We hope you enjoyed, and we hope you guys have an excellent night.